welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hi, this is Jessica from Syosset Library's Turn the Page podcast. I am here with the author of a book that combines a whole bunch of my favorite things. We've got D&D, we've got queer romance, we've got fun banter, and you write so many different things. Like right now we're talking about Roll for Love, but you have another book coming out and you have others. I mean, your catalog is so expansive and you don't just stick to one genre. And this one's also, did I say romance? It's romance also. Romance with D&D is kind of a big thing lately, which I want to talk to you about because I think it's great. A wonderful development coming out of just literature in general. But please introduce yourself. Tell us about Roll for Love and about your writing career.
Sure. So I'm MK England. I am the author of 10 books for kids, teens, and adults because, as you say, I cannot seem to focus on one genre or age category. I do all the things. And Roll for Love is my most recent YA novel. And so that is the story of two country girls falling in love across the D&D table while trying to figure out what their options are for life after high school and how that might look different for them than what is expected of them.
Yeah, and it's a really nice story. And you kind of drop us in right away. You know, it's got these alternating chapters where you hear from Harper, which is one of the girls, and Ollie, which is the other. And you get kind of like where they're both at. Now, and this is, I suppose you could call this a second chance childhood teen romance as well, because Harper and Ollie knew each other when they were younger. Harper visited her grandparents' farm. Ollie knew her back then, and when they reconnect, and it's actually very funny. I don't want to spoil it for anyone because it's like it's such like a meet cute, but when they reconnect, it's like Harper is like, what luck? Somebody, a girl I've been, who has all the things, who just happens to be, who was probably my first crush, literally just dropped into my lap. So, I mean, it's adorable and it's a fun story. So, before we get into it too much, where did the idea for this story and these characters come from for you?
Sure. So the way a lot of my book ideas come up is I'll have a random idea after playing in a D&D game, playing a video game, watching a TV show, and I just have a big old Google Doc called Idea Dump. And I just throw things in there, bad ideas, good ideas, nothing ideas. They all go in the dump doc. And once in a while, things that are in there will bump into each other and become a whole book. And so for years and years, I had a line in there that just said the gay barn and queer teens coming together to create a safe space in an old rundown barn. You know, that's not a book idea, but it's an idea. Like there's something there, but I had no idea what the story to go along with it was going to be. I just loved that image. I loved that feeling of creating safe community. And it wasn't until, also in that idea doc, I was like, man, I really want to write a D&D book, but how am I going to do it? How am I going to make it appealing? What's it going to be? And one day I just went, oh my God, I put a D&D group in the gay barn. There it is. There's the story. And I just ran from there.
It's a really good one. And, I think that it's really just kind of nice to see that all of these things that were probably, in varying degrees not talked about, when I was a kid or when even before that are now really coming out, pun intended and not intended, in literature and books these days. I mean, back when I was younger, if you played D&D, you didn't tell people about it. If
Hmm.
you wrote fan fiction, you didn't tell people about it. And if you were gay, you didn't generally tell people about it. Or if you were,
Yep.
you know, queer or bi, like Ollie is, you didn't talk about it. And Ollie's another story altogether. Her situation is very different. She's from a huge family, by the way. She and Harper, you know, even though they do come together with with the things that make them similar, they are very different. You know, Ollie is from a huge family. Harper is an only child, but they find this community together and they re-find each other. But again, this is a really natural feeling book that, like 3 decades ago, I think if you pitched it, they'd be like, who's going to want to read about it? Well, a lot of people actually. So just kind of going from the D&D angle specifically, how have you found that it's a good vehicle for a romance?
Well, I mean, having played D&D for, 20 plus years, and dabbling even further back when I was a child, I've always loved that aspect of Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games where you get to inhabit another character. You get to inhabit somebody who is not you, and through that you can kind of explore some things that maybe feel a little too risky in real life, or you can test out what it feels like to be a different sort of person. So I think D&D and tabletop storytelling really lend themselves to that kind of story, to queer stories specifically. And it's just been amazing over the last 10 years or so to watch the way Dungeons and Dragons has exploded into the popular zeitgeist. And that's really what made this book possible. If I had tried to pitch this at the beginning of my career, everybody would have said, no, too niche. Nobody knows what D&D is. And even now at the publisher, some of them tried to be like, nobody knows what D&D is. I'm like, hi, Dimension 20 just sold out Madison Square Garden in like hours. People know what D&D is now. So a story that may not have been possible just a few years ago now feel the market feels so ready for it. So I finally get to let my nerdy heart out and just write the kind of story that I've always wanted to write.
How do you approach character? Because the whole group is just a joy to read, and Ollie and Harper, like their dialogue and everything, just feels very natural. When you conceive of a character, do they kind of pop on the page? Does their cadence play in your head? Do you listen to different music when you're writing their chapters?
Yeah, definitely can't listen to music while writing. I am a former musician, and so music is way too distracting. But I can't actually start writing a book until I can really clearly hear those voices in my head. When they're clearly differentiated, when I kind of have their cadence and their sense of humor. And in some ways, I do write my way into it as well. I am a planner very much, and so I write the whole synopsis beforehand. So I know what's going to happen. I kind of know what their character arcs are going to be. And then it's a lot of like, if this, then that, if this, then that. If they're like this, then how would they react to this situation? If they're like that, then what kind of joke would they make in this situation? And then as I write, they just sort of further differentiate themselves until, and then in the revision, I can go back and kind of carry through whatever I've discovered over the course of the draft. But voice is something that's very, very important to me. I do a lot of reading my own work out loud to make sure that the dialogue always sounds like something that could come out of somebody's mouth. If it doesn't, it needs to be revised immediately. And, those friend groups they're one of the hallmarks of my work. They're in every single book I write. There is like a core tight knit friend group, because I think it's just something that I didn't have in my life for a long time, or that I had and then lost. I've done a lot of moving around. I've changed a lot from when I was young. And so, yeah, it's in some ways aspirational. I've always wanted that level of community. And then as I've gotten older, I have found my own community. And it's just so important to me, and so much a part of all of the little nerdy niches that I seem to write about, whether it's like a little friend group doing heists together, or it's, nerdy fandom friends, or it's friends coming together over the D&D table. Every single one of my books has one of those friend groups, and I just think it makes the characters' lives feel richer, and you can even see more of the characters themselves because you get to see how they interact with other people. And I think we reveal a lot about ourselves in the way we talk to our closest friends. So it'll be in every book I write. I'm certain. I can't seem to do anything else.
No, I mean, that's kind of a good thing, and you really need that, especially if you are writing anything that's romance based personally, unless these people feel like real people that have real lives and that are not just each other. It's really, really hard for me to believe any of it, to buy any of it, to actually care about them unless I can see how they interact with people, how they interact with the world around them, what kind of support they have, because it really just kind of explains their reaction to opening themselves up to another person, and I think I mean, there's different levels to it, and there's different types of romance or different types of love stories. But I think authentically, you do want to care about the people you're reading about. And Harper and Ollie were really easy to care about from the first time they came onto the pages. I also just really enjoyed bucking certain stereotypes about small towns and also just like what your life is supposed to look like after high school. I think there was just a lot of nuance to it because a lot of teen YA fiction that's contemporary, it's like it's almost like, well, and then they went to college and it was the exact college they wanted to go to and things turned out however. And I like that there's just some sort of questioning about different ways of getting where you want to go and different types of schooling and also just different goals.
Yeah, that was something that was really important to me to bring out in this book. I've lived in a lot of small towns throughout my adult life. I live, in rural Virginia, in a small town that I just love to the ends of the earth. And it was really important to me to show the beauty of living in a place like this and to show that there is a place for people out here. That, if you are a queer kid, you get kind of told you've got to move to a city one day. If you ever want to be yourself, if you ever want to be welcome, if you ever want to have a good life, you got to move to a city where you'll be accepted. And I'm like, I mean, in my town, we have like a queer owned coffee shop, and the apartment above it like flies a Rainbow Progress flag all the time. And, there's a great community out here, which is not to say there's never struggle, because there always is, especially now, but it's not maybe the like cut in stone sentence that it used to be. If you're happy out here, you can be here, you can stay here, and nobody gets to tell me I have to leave. So, and I'm not gonna anyway. And the college stuff as well. I just, when I was growing up in the kind of like late 90s, early 2000s, the pressure to go to college was immense, and it had to be 4-year college, or else your life was over and you were never going to have a good job and your whole life was going to be struggle. And the more I've gone through life, the more I just have realized, like, boy, that was a bunch of nonsense. Like, what we really need right now, plumbers and electricians. Who's making a lot of money right now? Plumbers and electricians. And I have a young kid, and finding childcare is impossible because those people get paid next to nothing. There are just really vital roles in our society that we have undervalued for so long, and I'm tired of it. And I really wanted to show some teens taking a different path and showing that, like, there these other paths have value. You don't have to be ashamed to go to community college or something. You don't have to be ashamed to go into the trades. I feel like there used to be a big stigma associated with that, and there probably still kind of is in some places. But it was really important to me to try and provide some counter messaging for that.
Yeah, definitely. And again, it's with a wonderful cast of characters. I know you're working on many other things right now. You have something else. Did it come out already? There's
It
something
came
new?
out yesterday.
Came out yesterday.
Yes, that was my adult romance debut. I'm having kind of a romance heavy year, I guess, which is funny considering I think of myself so much as a sci-fi fantasy author. But yeah, All Fired Up is my adult romance debut, and that came out just yesterday, and just today got a wonderful review in the New York Times, which was an author first for me. So I'm still kind of coming down from that from a couple hours ago.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Another question I have is, would you ever revisit this town and these characters, maybe with different characters being a focus?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I might be kind of done with YA for a little while. I'm not saying I'll never come back to it, but I have 4 YA novels out there right now. My next 3 books, no, well, so I have 6 books coming out in the next like 2.5 years. 3 of them are adult and 3 of them are middle grade. So I'm kind of like locked up right now in terms of what else I can possibly be putting out there. I won't say never because I love this setting, I love this town, but I do feel like I've kind of said what I have to say for now until the next random thing in my idea document happens to bump into something else and become a book.
Thank you so much. Roll for Love is delightful. All Fired Up, the New York Times says is good. So you should check it out. Absolutely. Is that
Thank you so
so
much.
that's like a firefighter romance?
So that one is a sapphic romance for the adult audience. Very different audience from Roll for Love.
Yes, a very a
And
lot spicier is the term.
yes,
A lot more
yes.
heat. There's heat.
Um, and also just more, the characters are like 27, 28. They're dealing with very different stuff in life. But the 2 lead women are, one is a firefighter and one is a professional fire starter for science, studies fire dynamics. So they are a really fun duo. And I've got another book in that universe coming out next year. So very excited.
Excellent. Well, once again, this was Jessica from Syosset Libraries Turn the Page podcast. Thank you, thank you, thank you, MK England, for making the time to talk to us. Hopefully, we will be back and chatting with you about many of your other books because it sounds like you're busy.
I am. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right, we are going to close this chapter of Turn the Page.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.